Hello, all. I am Captain Ryan Corl. I am the operations officer at the 130th Force Sports Squadron at McLaughlin Air National Guard Base. I have been there for a little over 2 years now. As part of my duties there, one thing that I do typically on drill weekends, as I'm a traditionalist, is that I do a lot of inspections. I make sure that, different programs across the Force Support Squadron are doing what they need to do. Are they doing the right processes? Are they doing them as efficiently as possible? How else can we think about them? Um, on the other end of things, as a home station mission, I am in charge of the fatality search and recovery team. That is part of a larger scope national emergency team for if there's an incident that involves biochemical hazards, things of that sort. So think of like the wildfires in California or the flooding in North Carolina. We would respond to those kind of incidents with a larger team. Um, though I say all this, talking to you guys now from my clinic on the civilian side of things. Um, so the question that was brought to me was the question on loyalty and leadership. And the example that I have to bring to the table is when I was active duty, because I was active duty for 5 years prior to joining the Air National Guard, is I joined an office, and immediately upon me entering there, we were put on inspection notice. There was going to be a base-wide inspection. And unfortunately, my supervisor at the time was dealing with a lot of personal issues and unfortunately was not in the right headspace to really think in critical and complex ways in terms of how to do the mission and how to get through this inspection and learn from it as much as possible. As a result, she really tried to kind of mask any issues that we were having, get the inspectors in and out as quickly as possible. And she tried to pull me along into that, in that idea of, oh, we just need to get past this one piece and we'll be fine. And that put me in a tough situation because in looking at the program, yeah, we did a lot of good things, but at the same time, there were a lot of concerns that I know I had that we weren't following some regulations that we knew about, that we just needed to implement the right processes. Um, and so in my mind, I'm going through, all right, well, what are the consequences? And so obviously in this case, what really came to mind in reflecting on this was consequentialism, because I looked at what are the consequences. So in looking at what are the negative consequences of not aligning with my supervisor, and there's a lot of possibilities. I tended to focus on what would that mean for our relationship and working together, because the work environment that can be critical. That can make or break whether somebody stays in the Air Force or not. So I was keeping that in mind, but at the same time, there's that integrity piece that goes along with having somebody come in and inspect your program and what you tell them about it. And I didn't want to put my integrity on the line. And there's also the further consequences of if they catch us lying and that gets reported up, there's further like administrative consequences that are involved. And so in my head, the bigger scope of consequentialism in this, there was a lot more negatives against aligning with my supervisor. And I also saw a lot of positives that went with not aligning with her in terms of what we could do for our program. And so when push came to shove and the inspectors came in, I was I ended up being very honest with them. I said, "This is where our issues are, and here's our game plan to fix it." At the same time, when they came in and said, "Hey, I noticed you haven't been doing A, Y, and Z," I said, "Okay, well, can we think about how to approach this?" Because I wanted to have that open dialogue, and that actually really, I mean, at this point, no surprise to you guys, I'm sure now that we've changed how we do inspections in the Air Force. But it was at the time really useful, although kind of unique for how the Air Force did inspections at the time. Um, and thankfully, 6 months down the line, we had another surprise inspection from a different level within the Air Force. And thanks to what we had implemented from the previous inspection, it turned out we were doing great. Um, and so that's kind of the positive end of the consequentialism, is that there, though we tend to often think of what are the negative consequences within this, there's also the aspects of what do you gain in the process. So that's all I have. Thank you very much. I look forward to your feedback.